Captain Jack Harkness is one of the most popular and well-known characters of modern Who, and in Series 3, he was teased to be another iconic character of NuWho, the Face of Boe.
Living in the Beauchene Peninsula. Tiny little place. I was the first one ever to be signed up for the Time Agency. They were so proud of me. The Face of Boe, they called me. I'll see you.
Can't be.
No. Definitely not, no. No.
Now this was just a line to tease fans, maybe link a possible connection there, and fans have been talking about it since the day it came out, and are still talking about it. Now what was actually meant to happen in canon with this was Stephen Moffat was going to bring back Captain Jack Harkness for Series 6 and A Good Man Goes to War with the Headless Monks. Now the Headless Monks were going to decapitate Jack, and that was going to cause him to become the Face of Boe, and that was going to be the in-canon reason. Now allegedly what happened here is the actor who plays Jack, John Barrowman, had scheduling conflicts and couldn't do the episode. Of course, let's try and focus on the character of Jack and not the actor here, because it's a mess. Now, before we get into the meat and bones of this subject of today's video, we need to address a couple of things about Captain Jack. He was brought back to life by Rose Tyler as Bad Wolf, and he can't die.
I keep wondering, what about aging? Because I can't die, but I keep getting older. The odd little gray hair, you know? What happens if I live for 1,000,000 years?
I really don't know.
Okay, vanity, sorry.
He is immortal. This is a massive plot point in Torchwood as the whole crew finds out, and also a plot point in Doctor Who. We see him die over and over again, and it's pretty traumatic, and the character is deep-seated in history. But let's get into today's subject. Can Captain Jack actually be the Face of Boe? Well, in Torchwood Children of Earth, that is Torchwood Series 3, Captain Jack Harkness is implanted with a bomb. Now, Captain Jack explodes, and he eventually comes back together, and he survives it. He got blown up to shreds, and he survives.
Locked inside. Yanto and you! Your way to override the mechanism. For God's sake, get out! There'll be nothing left of you! I can survive anything!
And of course he survives the bomb, and we see him survive hundreds of different deaths, and we're told about it. The only time we see Jack coming really close to death is when he becomes mortal, and all the rest of the world became immortal. So it makes sense, but that is an extreme situation. What about Captain Jack on the regular? How would he eventually become the Face of Boe if he can't die and his body rebuilds itself? I think of him as a Deadpool-like character. He has Deadpool-like healing abilities, that even from a drop of blood that he has survived. I would like to re-emphasize that Captain Jack is a fixed point in time, meaning that he cannot die under any circumstances unless there's a freak event like him becoming mortal. And then even then, him being a fixed point in time and that happening really doesn't make sense. But it's Doctor Who, so bear with me. But of course, we know that Captain Jack Harkness will live for a long, long time. And we know the Face of Boe does as well, before we see him die on screen. So how does that happen? How does Jack become the Face of Boe? And how does he eventually get to the stage where he can die? Now, we of course know how Boe can die. But how can Jack die if it's stated that he's a fixed point in time? It doesn't seem like something Doctor Who would just say wore off. And with how the character of Captain Jack is formed throughout Doctor Who, and especially Torchwood, his fate being the last creature on Earth, or a planet watching it burn, and him having to fade away like that, seems like a much sadder and more fitting end for the character. Everyone around him dies, and he's the only one left standing. And that seems like a lot better, maybe much more of a darker ending for Captain Jack, than him becoming the Face of Boe, which is a massive leap in logic if you want to explain it. But again, it is Doctor Who. Logic doesn't really exist there. Fan theories for this aren't much better. Some people say that on NuWho Earth, that Captain Jack might have been exposed to some of the fumes from the traffic, and it made him swell up, because there's a line in the episode that says so. This would not only be a very, very underwhelming go out for Jack to become the Face of Boe, that he got like that because of some traffic fumes, but we also know that in Utopia, he stood underneath a rocket in an irradiated room that nobody else could go in, and he was completely fine, because not only can he not die, his body is constantly healing itself.
It's not easy, even just looking at you, Jack, because you're wrong.
Thanks.
You are, I can't help it. I'm a Time Lord, it's instinct. It's in my guts. You're a fixed point in time and space, you're a fact. That's never meant to happen.
And I don't blame fans for coming up with their own theories, because the show really hasn't offered much in a way of explanation for this, because I feel like it was just meant to be a throwaway line to make people speak about this, and it worked. But a lot of people and a lot of fans still want to know the answers to this, but it's never coming, especially now. I much prefer the whole Face of Boe thing to be left as a mystery. Isn't he or is he? It's a fun debate that will always go on as long as Doctor Who's going on. And I think it's a fun mystery that Doctor Who doesn't necessarily need to solve. I mean, it would be great to see an answer to this and see if Captain Jack is actually the Face of Boe. But also, the Face of Boe was introduced in 2005. We're nearly at the 20th anniversary since that. I feel like it can be left. I don't know if it should really be answered. Here's my wild theory that might not be as fun as some others. I don't believe that the Face of Boe is Jack. I feel like Captain Jack, of course, knows who the Face of Boe is, and is just winding the Doctor up. The Face of Boe is a mythical creature who lived for billions of years, and so is Jack. And he feels a sense of relatability, but also just wants to mess around with the Doctor. I think this is quite funny. I think it's quite within Captain Jack's character to sort of just mess about with the Doctor. But again, maybe that's just a bit of a, bit of a bad answer for a question that's being asked since 2007.
Actually, I found a grey hair.
Oh, well, that is the end of the world.
But maybe that's a bit of an anticlimactic answer for a question that's been asked since 2007. But you can believe it, or you don't have to believe it. It's been completely left up to the audience to decide if you want to believe that Captain Jack is the Face of Boe, or isn't. And either way is completely fine. There are definitely some fun fan theories out of there of being him the Face of Boe, or not him being the Face of Boe, and other people being the Face of Boe. And you can choose to believe whatever you want. But for me, as a fan and just looking at the show, I don't personally believe that he's the Face of Boe. But if you do, that's completely fine, and I would love to hear some of your fan theories down below.
I have died so many times. Been dragged back into life. Like being hauled over broken glass. In the end, I got the message. I'm the man who can never die. And all that time you knew.
That's why I left you behind.
Captain Jack is a mysterious character who's got one of the saddest stories in Doctor Who history. And I personally think that an ending for Captain Jack doesn't need to be told. I feel like it being left to the imagination that he is the Face of Boe, or how he comes to his end, is a lot better than it being told. I personally think that Captain Jack would be the last person on the planet, being alone, with everyone around him fallen. Something that we see throughout Torchwood and Doctor Who. Much more fitting end for Captain Jack. Or you could go with the more happy one, that he's the Face of Boe, and he dies with the person that he's been trying to find, the Doctor. And that's his love story. And if you want to choose to believe that, that's fine. And you can have your own theories about this, but please comment them down below. But I've been your host Samuel, and I'll catch you in the next video.